Hey, it's Chris, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Coder, where we've been working on creating our very own Frogger clone. And where do we stop off last week? We literally finished the addition of sound, and what game doesn't need sound? Every game needs sound, so did ours, and so that's what we did. So now, I'm not really sure where we're going to go next. I don't know. What I do know is that I was playing our Frogger game the other day and noticed a couple of things that bothered me. And I think maybe what we'll do is we'll call this episode Odds and Ends. I think would be a good way to title it. Because there are a few odds and ends that we need to worry about. One being, and I'll show this to you, let's say we start the Frogger game in our emulator. So we'll restart it. Right? So our little intro to the game sound plays. And this is our game starting. And then, as you see here, there's no frog. There's also no time band. Kind of like here. We've got a frog and a time band. When we start our game, the frog and the time band are both there. The other odd thing that's happening is here, if you look at this game timer, it's already counting down. And this bar is already moving, and we can't even move around yet, right? We can't move around until we press enter. The game timer's still going. We still can't move around. And now we can, but look at how far our timer's already gone down. We barely have time to make it to the home bay, and if we're really good, which we aren't, we can't make it. So that's a bad thing. We have to fix that. So here, in the emulator, when we press enter, the game starts, shows up with the Frogger, and then shows the time band. Once the music stops, the time band actually starts to count down, just like ours is, but ours is starting from the very beginning before we even start to, be able to play. So let's go ahead and tackle that issue. Let's fix that so that we don't have to worry about that anymore, okay? So the way that we're going to do that, first of all, let's pause this and let's click on, well, let's open up the player script. I think that's all in there. So what we need to do is, what is this? Let's close that. And let's look at our... Okay, so the check game timer. That's what's updating our time band. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our time band doesn't get updated until the player has actually started the level. Not the game, but the level, right? So we have two things happening here. When we start the game, there's an intro playing that tells you, hey, we're in the game, whatever the intro sound is. And then after the intro sound is done, or while the intro sound is playing, the player can choose to press enter. And at that time, the level sound starts playing. So what we want to do when that happens is we want to display the time band and the frog. And then when the sound finishes playing, we want to allow the player to move the frog, which that's already a thing. But we also want to start the countdown of the timer. So very quick, what we can do is in check game timer, we can do if level started. That's that boolean that we created last week or 2 weeks ago. Equals true. If that's a thing, then we want to allow this game timer to start counting down. So we're gonna cut that and paste that into here. Clean this up a little bit. And then, let's see. We also need to make sure that we don't show the frog or the game timer when the game starts. So we can do that here in the start. Yeah, let's do it in the start. We could do it in the inspector and we could just disable them by default. Which would save us some code. Certainly. But let's do it in the code just so that you guys know how. So what we'll do is we will use the game object that we're currently on. We're going to get the sprite renderer component, okay, of that game object. Now the sprite renderer component is responsible for drawing the sprite, in this case our frog, to the screen. So if we don't want to show the frog, then we have to get that component and we have to manipulate it. And the way that we manipulate it is by basically calling on its enabled property and setting that to false. So that would be just like if we were to go in the inspector and on the sprite renderer component there's a check mark there, and if we uncheck that, it'll set that enabled property to false, just like we're doing in the code right now. So that'll hide our frog. Then the other thing we have to hide is the time band, and that's just as simple as saying HUD.timeband dot enabled equals false. So at that point, we're not seeing the time band or the frog. Okay, so this is hidden. So then what we'll need to do is that after we press enter, and that happens in this method here, the check bypass intro. Probably not the best name for that method. Or what we should have done, you know what? Let's just not. Let's not make any more weird modifications or code optimizations, as I would call them. And at this point, it would be an optimization. But for right now, this will work just fine. So when the player presses enter, and this happens whether we're listening to the intro or whether we're not listening to the intro, doesn't matter. The player can press the enter button, and then what'll happen is if we're at a place, well, which we always will be, where we can press the enter button. Otherwise, let's see, if game starting equals true. That doesn't even make sense. We should be able to play or press return anytime. We shouldn't care if the game is starting. Why do we care? We could probably get rid of this at some point. But for right now, let's just here, right? When we press enter, that's when we want to show the frog and the time band, right? So we do this same thing again. Get component sprite renderer dot enabled equals true, and then we show the HUD time band dot enabled equals true. All right, so both of these are now enabled. So from here, that should be it. That should be all we have to do. Let's save that and go back into Unity and check out what the gameplay is like. Alright, so you see how both the frog and the time band are gone. And they should stay gone even when the intro sound stops playing. Okay, so that's the same behavior that we have with the... Wow, lost my train of thought there. That's the same behavior we have with the game that's running in the emulator, okay? Which is exactly what we wanted. So now when we press enter, there's our frog, there's our time band, and you'll notice that the time band is not moving yet. Now as soon as, yep, there we go. Now it's starting to count down, which is perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. So now we move a frog. That's the other thing, that's actually... see, that's not what we want. We want... I know. You guys have no clue what I'm talking about. Look at the score at the bottom, right? It goes up no matter what I do. I can go up, down, left, right. Like, that should not be allowed. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Because if you look at the game in the emulator... Let's restart that. Alright, so we press enter. Okay? If we go left or right, nothing happens. We go up. Now we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. So now we've gone up to this sandbar. We're at 6. If we go down, we don't get any points. Now if we go back up, we also don't get any points. We don't get any more points until we actually go up one further than we've been previously, right? So that keeps you from like just going back and forth and hogging points for no damn reason. So we have to implement that in our game, otherwise people can just cheat forever, and then what's the point? You know, if you allow too many cheats, then the game is no fun. In my opinion, anyways. So, how do we implement that? First of all, let's look at our code and see what we need to do to limit the fact that we're giving the player points for going left, right, and down. Now, if you look right here in our update position, if the level started, we say, hey, if you want to go up, or if you're going up, then we're going to give you points. If you're going down, we're going to give you points. If you're going left, we're going to give you points. If you're going right, we're going to give you points. It's not what we want. We don't want to give any points when we're going right. We don't want to give any points when we're going left. We also don't want to give any points when we're going down. Now we do want to give points when we're going up, but let's have a quick look and make sure that our script hasn't broken anything. And I like to do this every now and then when I make changes, just to make sure that everything is still working after the changes that I actually made. Okay, so we're gonna press enter. So can't move still. That's good. We have to wait for the song to finish. Song is finished. We can move left, right. Doesn't give us any points. We can go up, which does give us points. Alright, we're at 60 here. Now if we go back down, we get no points. But if we go back up from that down position, we do get more points. So that's the thing we have to stop now. Okay? So the way that I'm thinking about doing this, and it's probably not the best way or the most optimized way, or maybe it is, I don't know. In my opinion, this is the way that I'm going to do this. First, I'm going to create two variables. We need to keep track of our current position, and we need to know how far we've been. Well, like, what's the furthest that we've been, right? So what we'll need is, and this is not where we're going to declare the variable, but here. And these can be private. We're going to make them integers, and they're going to be called maxy. And we're going to set that equal to 0. And we're going to also create a current y, and we're going to set that equal to 0. Okay? So now every time we move up, okay, we're going to go down here. Every time we move up, we want to make sure that we only give points if our current y is greater than our max y. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is we're going to increment our current y. So we're going to say current y plus plus, which increments our current y position by 1. And just keep in mind that these are not positional variables. These are not going to have any influence on where our frog is. These are just reference variables that we're going to store arbitrary numbers that only tell us in relative to the amount of hops that we've had, right? So we hop once, that goes up by 1. We hop another, we goes up to another, and you know, basically just like that. So if we were to, you know, start at 0 and then we hop, you know, up once, our current y is going to be 1. The next time we hop, it's going to be 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. Same thing with max y. So what we'll do here is we'll say if current y is greater than max y, right? If that's true, then and only then do we update the player score. Right? So imagine this for a second. Max y is 0, current y is 0. You're a frog, you're sitting at 0. You press the up button. Okay, so we're in this if statement because we pressed up. We move up. We say current y plus plus, which means we're going to add 1 to current y. Current y starts off at 0. So current y is now 1, right? So max y also starts off at 0, and we haven't manipulated max y anywhere else. So that means current y being 1, being greater than 0 is obviously true. So we're going to give the player some points. Now, the next time we go around, current y is going to be 2, and max y is still going to be 0. So that's going to suck because it's always going to be that. So what we need to make sure of is that we actually increment max y as well. But we don't do it unless we actually gave the player points, which means we put it in here with that if statement. So max y plus plus. So now what happens? We start at 0, current y goes up by 1, which makes y equal 1. Y is greater than 0, which is max y. Max y gets incremented, so now max y is 1, and then updates the player score. The next time you go around, current y increments from 1 to 2. 2 is greater than 1, which is what max y is, because last time we incremented max y, we added 1 to 0, which made it 1. So current y is 2, max y is 1, which is still true then, right? Current y is greater than max y. Max y gets incremented, max y is 2. Yep, max y is 2, and this gets added to the player's score. So now suppose that max y being 2, current y being 3, you go down. Okay, well there's nothing down here in this script that says, hey, so, you know, we need to decrement our current y, right? That needs to happen. So if we can move down, we're going to go ahead and do current y minus minus, which will take 1 away from current y. So suppose that our current y is 3, our max y is 2. We go down 1, which basically changes our current y from 3 to 2. So now current y and max y are equal. The next time you move up, current y equals max y, so we don't give the player any more points for that. It's only when current y, right, because it does get incremented, hang on one second, I may be ahead of myself here. So let's say we're at 3. So we increment current y Alright, so the way we're going to have to do this, I think, is we'll start current y off at 1. And then we're going to increment y after we check if it's greater than max y. The reason, alright, so let's do this logic again, but with the updated numbers. So current y equals 1, which is greater than max y. Max y is going to equal 1. And current y is going to equal 2. Then we go down, current y is going to equal 1. Max y equals 1. They're both the same. Max y gets incremented. No, it doesn't. Current y gets incremented. Current y is now 2. The next time we go up, it's going to be 3, which is bigger than max y. Alright. Let's give that a try. Alright, we're at 0. We got 10. Now if we go back down, we shouldn't get any more points. We should be good at 10. But if we pass that spot that we got to originally, then we should get another 10 points. Right? So here, and here, and here, 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 here. So we're still at 60 like we're supposed to be. But if we... Ugh. This is ridiculous. Alright. So... You know what we need to do? We need to also set it up so that max Y and current Y get reset. Probably in the place where we reset the position. So let's do that. So max Y equals 0. Current Y equals 1. There. And I actually just thought about this. If current Y is greater than max Y, let's just set current or max Y equal to current Y. Right, because that's really what we want. We start off with max Y being 0 and current Y being 1. We hop, right? We say, hey, is current Y greater than max Y? Yes, it is. So then we say, okay, well then let's make max Y current Y. So that means that now current Y and max Y are both 1. But then after, we say, all right, well, since we moved, we're going to increment current Y. That means now current Y is equal to 2 and max Y is equal to 1. Now if we go down, we lose 1 from current Y, which makes it back 1. And then we check if we go back up, we say, hey, is 1 greater than 1? Which it isn't. So then we increment current Y by 1, which makes it 2. We go back up. Current Y is greater than 1. And then we set max Y equal to current Y, which makes max Y 2. So then they're both 2, and then we increment Y again. So this should be perfect. Alright, I'm going to skip that. Alright, let's go 10, 20, and boom. And 30, 40. And the reason that I did this is because I want to be able to give the player points, you know, if he dies. He can start over, you know, kind of a... Alright, so here we go. 80, 90. Okay, so that's 130. So now if we go down and back up, we should still be at 130. Yep. Now we should go to 140 if we go to the next place. Perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm way happier with this now. This is actually, the points are better distributed like they should be. The game kind of flows a little better. I guess maybe in the next episode. So we'll call this one Odds and Ends, and then we'll call the next episode maybe Odds and Ends Part 2. Because what I want to do is I want to add maybe a next level. No, that can't be an Odds and End. Odds and End... Maybe like a game over? Yeah, you know what? The next episode can be the game over part, where we basically, once we run out of lives, the game starts over, and not just the level, the actual game. I think that's how the Frogger game works. We're going to have to play it and see. So we'll get to play for a little bit and figure things out. But for now, I think we're going to keep it here. I'm going to try to keep these videos a little shorter. The last one was super long. This one hopefully was shorter. I don't really keep track of time when I do these. I just kind of get done what needs to get done. So I apologize if this is too long for some of you guys. Either way, don't forget to subscribe and like my videos and comment you know, on whatever you want to comment on. Should be in relation to the content, but hey, if you just want to say hi, feel free to do that. And, yep, that's it. So I will see you guys next week, or the week after, or the week or a month after that. So hopefully not too long, but I will be back and with more videos. So see you then.